Thanks, screen.
Thank you. We are going to call the Ways and Means Committee meeting to order at 3 p.m. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Spatafor has an excused absence today. So that brings us to our minutes, and I will entertain a motion.
So moved to approve the minutes from March 5th.
That's a proper motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. And now we are next to our public comment on any agenda items. Do we have any public comment or anything online? All right, perfect. Well, we'll give them the floor if anyone does come in and want to speak. So now that will bring us to our discussion action item, the emergency purchase, Public Service Department professional pump as the vendor for the emergency repair of wastewater treatment plant, clarifier number 21. And we have Bill that will be present to speak.
Yes,
Hello,
hi.
welcome.
Hi, welcome. I just brought pictures today because people never seem to know what the equipment at the wastewater plant is and what it does. But the clarifiers are, we have clarifiers before and after the main treatment, biological treatment system of the plant. The clarifiers afterwards settle out the microorganisms that did all the work and treatment, and they also, off the top, there's scum that rises and it gets that off, and then the good water goes through a weir and gets filtered again and UV disinfected and then goes to the river. And so these 4 clarifiers in the solid plant, they were built in the mid 80s. So they're about 40 years old. And we had one completely fail, all the equipment inside of it. And I'll show you a top picture for clarifiers in the plant. Kind of what they look like on top. And I've got I can pass this around for folks who want to take a look at that. And there's a cross section of the clarifier also. Now there's skimmer on the bottom pushes the settled sludge to a little pit that it's sucked out of and pumped back to the treatment system, so we get to reuse those bugs again. We do waste some of them, and then they go get spread on either farmer's field or is daily cover for the landfill. And the scum is scraped off the top here. This doesn't really show the skimmer very well, but it is connected directly to the bottom skimmer arm of the tank. Now, what we found out in the one that failed, the driving mechanism is a central column that comes from a motor at the top, and that was all rusted out and actually broke, so it could not be fixed. And then when it broke, the skimmer arms, which are all connected, there's connecting arms down to the bottom all the way through, all that broke and collapsed into the tank. So the tank was unusable except for just storage if we had some excess water that we could use to store, but we couldn't use it for treatment anymore. So by then, at that point, it was okay, we better get some tanks fixed. So we put out a bid for 2 to get fixed, and those are in process right now. Unfortunately, it's a long process time for this equipment, and we're not going to be able to get 2 new tanks in operation until about a year from now. So we had 2 that were working out of the 4. Okay, we can keep these 2 working, get the new ones back online. Well, we had another one break, and so we just have 1. And so, in order to get us through the rainy season without having to do something that we never ever like to do, which is put sewage in the river because we can't get it through the plant and there's no else for it to go. We called a couple of different companies and had them come in, and the one actually working on the new project couldn't help us out at all. And another one came in and said, hey, we can get you up and running. We can take all the equipment out. We can build some new stuff for you and get you ready to go for a brief period of time with a new clarifier in just about a month. So they finished taking out all the equipment yesterday, and by about the first week in May, should have 1 more clarifier back online and be much more secure in our ability to treat the switch. But I'll pass this.
What's the longevity for the single one that's working right now? How much longer?
Break any time.
Okay, that was,
Good.
so, all right.
You know, we were pushing for do all four under this contract, but to do one costs $1.43 million. So we were able to convince Andy Kilpatrick to give us two.
What's the duration time frame for each unit? How long does it
The
typically,
lifespan?
yeah, the lifespan, how long do they typically last?
Oh, I would say about 40 years, 40 years. But actually, that's not entirely correct because we have, over the past few years, we have gone in there and done some repairs and, you know, been able to fix some of the steel and keep things working. But once that drive breaks to the main skimmers at the bottom, it's all over here. Really need a big infrastructure to push that and to move that along. And you're dead in the water, so to speak.
Mhm.
But this would be probably a 30-year project at least, and maybe you can live it along for another 10 years after that.
Any questions from the committee?
When are you anticipating, so this is just for one, right?
This is for one, yeah.
When do you anticipate to want to do the next three?
Well, fully repair the two, that's actually in construction right now.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have
Have three in operation.
two, we're keeping all the concrete that you see in that picture. All the metallic stuff is going to be replaced and brand new. Plus, we also have some things like covers outside of it where the clean water goes over a little weir, flows out to the filter area. That tends to build up algae. So we've had algae brushes that, you know, we put down and brush off the algae, we put them up, and then so every week we have to do that. The brushes are expendable. You have to replace them every once in a while. The covers keep the sunlight off and moves that whole part of that, you know, the labor and the materials needed to do that. So that's part of the project too. So this temporary one that we've got being fixed under this repair contract, this emergency repair contract, this will last us a while. Also, but we'll want to do a full repair on it as well, just to make. I mean, this is kind of some things are being replaced, some things are being sort of repaired. So this particular repair, I don't know exactly how long that would last, but we're not counting on it to last more than a few years, I guess. But hopefully long enough for us to get two new ones back into action. And in the summer, we plan to put that one and the other one out for it as well. There's also a possibility to add that to the existing contract if the prices still look good for us. So I guess we'll.
No other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, that's a proper motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this will be placed on file. Oh, we are now moving, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving to item number C, or letter C, resolution for the donation acceptance, East Lansing CrossFit 2025 Community Service Project for Capital Area Response Effort Care Unit, and we have Miss Cheryl Rappaport.
Cheryl's good.
Cheryl, look, I was gonna try.
But in all seriousness, the care unit takes care of domestic violence needs within the area, and the East Lansing CrossFit had a little fundraiser and designated them as a beneficiary. The benefit of them receiving this donation is that it's not specifically earmarked, so it can be used for things that grant funds don't cover, such as any necessary subpoenas or you call the restraining orders and such. So kind of cut and dried, whatever they need, we can utilize those funds.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Right, oppose? All right, passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Yep. Yeah.
All right,
know.
Brian and Hal, you have the remaining of the agendas. I assume. All right, so we're gonna move to item number, letter D, resolution for the fines, expired parking meters violation.
Thank you, council members, for having us today. Letter D is part of one of 4 of the items we put to you today for consideration that are working from our parking services to try to update and better serve our visitors, motorists, residents with some of the parking strategy that we have based on a study that we had conducted previous to now. And so we've put together some of these items. Letter D starts that by increasing the fines that are charged to individuals who receive tickets for expired parking meters. So these increased fines are reflected in the operating budget for this year that was already approved, but we need a resolution to accept those as proper to be charged as part of our normal enforcement. And I'll defer to Hal if he has anything to add to that from an operational standpoint.
Yeah, if you look at the resolutions that were passed or sent over here by the council, you'll note that the expired meter fines started at $25. Right now, in the ordinance itself, it reads as $15. $15 is the same amount as what we charge for parking in the ramps right now. So at that point, there's no incentive for anybody to move off of the street. What we're trying to do as part of the parking study was to get people to do short-term parking on street, long-term parking on the ramps or in the parking lots. So one of the things that they had mentioned was to increase our fines in order to match up with some of the other cities that are nearby us. With the exception of Flint, I think we're one of the lowest. And then the other thing is that because it's in the ordinance and the dollar amounts are in there, we had to put the dollar amounts in on this resolution as well.
Any questions from the committee?
Yes. Is the increase in the fines purely to disincentivize or because the city needs the money for something budget?
Well, one of the things that we're looking at, the ordinance as it stands right now, it says you will only get the lower rate if you pay within the first 2 hours, and you have to pay personally at the Parking Violations Bureau, which is our office. Obviously, that was probably written a few years back before there was the explosion of transactions online and things like this. But we did that. We also extended the day to the midnight on that day, so that if somebody comes in, if you get a ticket at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you come out of work at 5 o'clock. All of a sudden, you never even got a chance to get a chance to make a payment on this thing. Whereas this way, you can come in, you can go in, you can either stop at our office or you can actually go and just pay it online.
I'll be honest, I don't like fees. I think fees criminalize people who are poor. You have to go in to court really quickly and you don't have the money to pay for the parking in the first place, but you have to go in because if not, you'll be penalized. Then you end up just being penalized more because you're poor and couldn't pay for the fee to begin with. And so I'm not a big fan of fees. I understand that we do have to collect them in some instances, but I just wanted to make sure that I put that on the record.
So I park on the street. I'm outside my parking time by a few minutes or so. I get charged a significant fee unless I get to the office to pay within a certain time frame. So what about the individuals who currently have a busy day, busy life, and they forget and days go on and on, they could be subject to a high fee of $55 if they don't pay within a certain time frame. So I'm just trying to understand more, like if it's just we're matching this because of the other surrounding cities, or like what is more of the why? Because ultimately I would think we want to bring more people to our downtown communities to eat, play, and work. So what is the other facet of enhancing the dollar amount?
Well, first of all, I mean, right now, the current fine structure is set up at 15, going up to 45. But we're only doing a $10 increase on this. The other thing is, again, we're trying to incentivize people in order to use the parking ramps if they're going to be there long term. And that'll actually come up again in one of the other resolutions that we have on this.
I think that one of the issues that I have is that, you know, if I don't have $25 today, and I end up having to, you know, getting the expired meter, and I'm gonna have to wait 2 weeks because I don't have that extra disposable income. I'm getting charged the maximum amount because I'm poor and I don't have access to the money in the short term than someone who has the money and can pay it today because they have the disposable income to do that. And as a person who has grown up poor and has had to make these decisions myself, I would, if I don't have the money, and I have to make it to an appointment to court, to a job interview downtown, I'm gonna park on the street because I can still leave with my ticket, even though I'm gonna have to pay a lot more money for that than get stuck in the parking ramp because I have $0 in my debit card. And so these are the decisions that people are having to make. And I don't like criminalizing people or making them pay fines because they don't have access to the money. And so because they have to wait a longer time period, they end up having to pay the maximum amount. And that only reason is because they didn't have the money to begin with. If they could have paid for it, they would have. And that's my issue with these things.
Do we know how many people typically use the parking ramp currently within that study?
I would have to take out the study and go through that.
Yeah, I was just curious because if we're looking for those who are trying to occupy or patronize those small businesses, they're in and out versus going 2 blocks up to park in a parking ramp versus, and instead of just going in, getting their peanuts from the peanut shop, that's me, and and then getting back in the car and going and then having to versus having to walk 2 blocks to get to the nearest parking ramp. Because who knows? When I'm in those spaces, people see me, we get to talking. I'm meant to be in there for 5 minutes, and it turned into a whole hour or 2 hour conversation because that's what we do. We're relationship building, and we like to meet people and engage. So I'm just trying to figure out within the study how many people currently actually use our parking ramps, and is that number declining or is it increasing? Or like I know you mentioned you want to have people utilize our space, those ramps for long term, but is it really beneficial for based off of what our patrons are coming in and out to do?
Well, one of the issues that you have there is that most of our revenue is being driven off of special events. So you're working off of the Lansing Center or something like this, or Great Wall, anything like that, where we can actually consider that even the events at the Capitol. We have a number of those. DoubleTree Hotel, which is connected up to our main garage here, the North Grand Ramp. They have a number of events going on. As a matter of fact, they had a luncheon this afternoon with about 300 people. So we get a lot of use out of the garages, but there's no way to say if it's a transient and they're coming in for 2 hours, are they going shopping or are they going to an event, something like that. So that I would say, we could probably come up with those numbers if you need them, but I don't have them right offhand.
If I could interject for a minute too, to that, to your question, Councilmember. So we'd be happy to provide you with the stats from the parking study so you can see at the time what the usage was for actual traffic for ramps by asset as well as on street, that sort of thing, just to kind of get a sense of the effect this will have, the scope it will have. So we're happy to do that for you in consideration of these. And if I can speak to your why question. I think these 4 items altogether were taken to designed to kind of function altogether. The next item that we were asking for consideration on was restructuring how we charge for parking. And so, for instance, item E, to restructure a progressive structure for parking charges up front, allows for people to stay longer on the street. And so, in the hopes of avoiding over meter, because right now there's a certain limit to how long you can pay the meter and still be considered having a paid parking session. And so item E, for instance, would actually allow someone to park on the street all day and choose that option from the beginning, which would hopefully reduce the likelihood that they would be penalized if the meter runs out. And obviously there are options where that's not going to benefit them if they're staying longer than they intended and that sort of thing. So I certainly appreciate your point about the fines escalating as well. But we did try to include that option, as well as the amendment to Chapter 404 to allow people to pay up to midnight and avoid any additional fines, and also to be able to pay online. Right now, the ordinance reads in person at the parking office, which in the 21st century isn't wildly practical. And so
I just think if you don't have the money to pay the parking meter right now, it's unlikely that you're gonna be able to make it appear in your account
no, your
by midnight even.
point is well made.
And so then,
Point's well made on that.
yeah, you just end up getting penalized because you didn't have the money to begin with.
Your point's well made on that, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. If I could speak onto that point, why specifically there is that progressive fine structure. I want to be
It
clear.
escalates so
We're
quickly.
talking about this item, we're talking about fines for violations. We're not talking about fees for parking. But when we talk about the fines, specifically the ordinance requires a progressive pay structure based on the way the ordinance is currently written.
Maybe we
So
should.
that is the way, just to provide a bit of an explanation about why that fine structure is as it is. As you'll see in 404.03 in front of you, it does require specifically a rate for paying within 14 days and another rate for paying within 28 and an additional increased rate for paying within 48.
And this one is for chapter 404 or no?
Which the penalty, so it's 404.03 sub A is where that provision is. In front of you right now is a change to sub B.
So is that the one that has to have the progressive?
Yep, if you look at your packet in front of you, you'll see it in.
When you get to G,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? All right. Resolution
Goes to council.
goes to council. Next item, resolution E, and there is our fees, on-street paid parking rate restructuring. You have the floor again.
Thank you so much. So to this resolution, as mentioned earlier, the goal here is to allow those who would like to park on the street all day to have that ability and have that convenience to pay for parking, but the charge upfront increases because, as Hal mentioned, the goal was to incentivize long-term. And I say long-term, but usually that carries a day's connotation. But if they're going to be parking all day, for instance, for their job or something like that, that we'd try to encourage them to take advantage of the ramp space and allow those spaces on the street for folks who are coming in to do shopping for an hour or two or run errands, and have easier access to the shops they might want to frequent. So we're hoping to use that progressive rate structure to allow folks to park all day. Right now, there's a limit to how long you can feed the meter in a specific zone and be considered paid for the purposes of avoiding tickets. So this would change that. It allows them to park all day if they wanted to pay the fine, but it will come, or excuse me, not the fine, I apologize. Let's just make that legal distinction, pay the appropriate fee, but it will come at a premium cost because that on-street space is valuable for other folks as well. So that's the design of that resolution. And so we would increase the rates progressively as the day goes on. I think there's a chart in your, or a table in your packet that shows how that would increase starting at 9 o'clock, which again is another resolution that we're bringing before you to modify enforcement to start at 9 instead of 8 o'clock. And so we factor that into the table. So
Real quick, the study, have we ever considered having it being maybe 15 minutes to an hour and giving that first 15 minutes, as a courtesy for those meter parkings? Have we considered that within the study?
Yes, that is both in consideration of the study and in policy. What we have found as we've put together these legislative items is that the technology, both in payment system and in the hardware that is on our streets, our multi-space parking meters, would require upgrades to the technology to offer that option. But we have been directed to find out what that would cost, how to implement it. It's a longer term strategic goal because it requires increased cost to upgrade the hardware and the software. And so we have been in discussion about that. And that's our future plan, is to offer that either in designated spots or ideally in any street parking. But that's a discussion we're having with our technology vendors to find what would be required to make that happen.
What would be the timeline to figure it out?
Our goal is to have something to show to you all by the end of this fiscal year. So we're actively pursuing those answers.
Yes, yeah.
And so, because we believe that that would hopefully, again, as the chair mentioned, encourage folks to come down and have that convenience if it's just from not to not have to even put any money out at that point. So it is a conversation we're having, and it's a goal of ours to be able to offer that, to try and drive more patronage at our various commercial areas. Also, our commercial associations are very much in favor of that, are trying to help us. It's been a good partnership opportunity. So that is something that we are actively pursuing.
Thank you. Any questions from committee? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Proper motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, passes. All right, we're moving along to item F, resolution to introduce and set up public hearing, amend chapter 404, section 404.01E to modify metered parking hours of operation.
That one out.
Sure. Right now, we had discussed this, and by the way, if you want to take a look at it before we get a chance to get out of this, on the city's parking website, near the bottom of the splash page, you'll find a link to the parking study. The complete parking study is there. This is something that we had talked about with the consultant when we were doing the parking study, trying to figure a way to reduce the friction between parking enforcement and the people that are trying to load up for the restaurants and bars and things like that, especially down Washington Square. And so what we wanted to do was, we said, considering what else we're doing here, and cut back on the enforcement and go from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. as a start time. And then that way we can work with the downtown business people and some of the other folks and say, listen, this is the time that you want to have your deliveries done. I came up here from South Florida, and especially in Miami area, where they have tremendous amount of business in the downtown and along the beach. This is what they did. They actually came out and signed their loading zone saying from 7 a.m. till 1 p.m. this is a loading zone, and then after that it becomes hourly parking, hourly metered parking. And so we said, rather than do that and have more of a hodgepodge, because one of the reasons that we're doing the previous resolution was because we've got so many different regulations in the downtown area. If you go over in front of the public service or parking services office, we have 30-minute parking, 4-hour parking, and 20-minute parking on one block. So what we're trying to do is, with that resolution, we want to make sure that everybody understands that wherever you park, this is what the time limit is, this is what the rate is. And the same thing here, we want to try and make sure that we're saying, okay, this is what you can do. We'll try and work with you, and we'll see what happens to it. This is all part of, like I said, it's all part of the parking study. And at that particular point, it was something that we discussed with the consultant and said, we'll try it. We don't want to do it everywhere. but we'll try it and see how it works out. In the meantime, we saw that it was in the ordinances, so we just decided to change the hours there and we'll see how it works out.
Thank you. I do remember, and I like that it's been pushed back till 9 from 8. My only question and reservation would be those midday drops. So I know when I come downtown, sometimes there's the trucks that are delivering based off their vendors. Sometimes they're not available to do the morning drop, so they'll have like a midday drop or whatnot. And so I know those may particularly be the one-offs, but just keeping that in consideration that not all businesses may have the ability to set their vendors to drop off prior to 9.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I understand that there's municipalities. So again, this is something that we're doing more of a trial basis to see how it works. We had a number of different ideas come up from the consultant. Some of them were good, some of them are not so good. And that's why it took us a little bit longer to get this to the folks here, because we want to make sure that we do this right. Hopefully the first time, rather than have to come back and do it again.
If I could make another comment to that, the 9 o'clock start time also was based on survey of the different businesses' hours of operation within these different commercial zones to try and target the times when they were most busy. And so folks who were coming in to stop in the morning, get something on the way to work or otherwise. So we also tailored it to the use patterns we saw with our local businesses. So that was also their basis for the 9 o'clock start. So.
Question. In the ordinance, I don't see any provision about potential appeals for these. Well, how do people appeal getting a parking ticket, this type of ticket?
Sally, can you speak to that, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand what you were
An
asking.
appeal of getting this? So like if someone had an issue that they wanted to come say, hey, I don't think that this should be, that I should have to pay a fine for this. Is there any kind of appeal process? What is that?
Oh, it is an appeal process for any citation.
Okay, and where, I don't see it in here. So what's the process?
You file an appeal online. Normally, that's the easiest way to do it. You can do it through our website. And from there, it goes to one of our staff who reviews it, makes a decision. And then after that, if they're still not happy with that, then they can go to 54A District Court.
Have we ever gotten any reports on like how many people appeal their citations and what kind of citation appeals get approved and why, and what gets turned down? Anything like that to council?
We can provide that information.
That would be great.
But to that,
thank you.
we can provide you with a copy of the process as well, so that
Yeah.
you have that
Yeah, thank you.
right for it. Sure, happy to do that.
As a matter of fact, we just did that.
Yes, yeah, that's great.
Any other questions from the committee? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Proper motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
So
See,
this would, just for the record, this would be to set the public hearing.
Right.
For April 6th. It'll go on next Monday and the hearing will be April 6th.
not the 23rd.
Well, Monday's the
Oh,
23rd when we set
Set
it.
it. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Hey, that would pass this. I'm sorry. I lost where I was
Sorry.
at with it. No, you're good. Last item is the resolution to introduce us and set a public hearing, amend chapter 404, section 404.03 to allow payment of a reduced rate for expired meter violation until midnight of the day of issuance. Yeah, the floor.
This just follows on to what I think Hal made reference to earlier, but the ordinance as it stands allows for a decrease in the fine if you pay within the first 2 hours of issuance. And the ordinance specifies, based on what was written, that you have to appear at the parking services office to do so. We have online payment options that would remove that need to show up in person. And this would extend that payment until the end of until midnight that day. And so it's to be a little more of a grace period if folks are ticketed and are able to pay to do so and receive a reduced rate of seeing it escalate. So.
Any questions from the committee?
2 hours are shown on lines 14 through 17.
thank you.
where it's struck through.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, this is going to be set for April 6th.
Yep.
April 6th for the public hearing. All right, any other information or any other information to share for the body?
Point of order,
Yes.
could I ask when the council members would like to receive information we've committed to providing you via email? What's the timeframe we should like to receive it?
Since we have it,
Do you want it before the hearing or before you set it? As long as you have it before the.
before the hearing,
this-
before the
Before
hearing.
April
So
6th.
Oh, that's fine.
thank you.
And when you send it, if you could just CC me on it, and
Absolutely.
then that way I can make sure not just the committee, but all council members have it before the hearing.
Happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much.
Thank you. With no other business before the body, we are adjourned at 3:35. Thank you.
Very much.